wrong again, you know why. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Halls of Music. I'm excited to be bringing you some education material on the Grateful Dead's music. This is a 3-video series. This video that you're watching now goes over how to play 4 of the phrases from my solo and given detailed insights into how each phrase applies harmonically to the chord progression that's being played, as well as how it applies to the dynamic arc that's being built. Also included in the link below is a lot of graphs and various tablature forms of all the scales and arpeggios needed to play in a competent and confident manner with any version of Birdsong that's similar to the Grateful Dead's, like mine. If you want a resource that goes into further detail on how to play scales and arpeggios, and you want to support what I'm doing as a music teacher, you can purchase this book here, A Comprehensive Guitar Map for Improvisation, Book 1. It covers the entire neck, which is why it's called comprehensive. It goes into the cage system, extensions like major sevenths and minor sevenths and dominant sevenths and ninths. It also goes into the pentatonic scale. It does the major and the natural minor scale. So this book is a good way to start launching yourself into being able to go through all keys with the most important scales and arpeggios used for improvisation. Be sure to order it if you want to support what I'm doing or just want to get into the guitar a little bit more and think it might be helpful for you. So little insights into the actual constructive elements that make up this particular tune before we get into the study of each phrase. So the first thing is that the rhythm for this particular tune is a swing or swung type rhythm, which means instead of being straight time, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. It's important to make sure that you know that it's swing time and that all of your exercises or studies that you get into with scales and arpeggios, if they have eighth notes, they need to be swung. So this is what the chord progression looks like that we're using in this particular solo. You can see that it starts with a B minor kind of over E, which is a nice sound, and then a B minor 7 over E, which it also could be seen as an E sus 13 chord to an E. That creates a sense of resolution. You have 2 measures, 3, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So it's resolving to that E. Okay, it resolves to the E every single time. That's an important element, conflict resolution, in any solo that you play. Now, we have the small phrase conflict resolution for every 4 measures, and we have the long arcing building of the conflict resolution of the dynamic arc, where we start quietly, get louder, climax, and then there is a slight resolution in the end. Just like in Star Wars, Luke starts out in the desert, meets Obi-Wan, meets Han Solo, rescues the princess, blows up the Death Star, and then there's a little, celebration at the end. All good stories have this shape to them. So we want to make sure that everything that we do as improvisers leads us into this sort of understanding of conflict resolution, the small phrase and then the long arcing storytelling element of our improvisations. Let's take a look at the first phrase. I chose in my first phrase to do a relatively imitative job of what Jerry actually plays on the Reckoning acoustic live album by the Grateful Dead. Phrase 1 and phrase 2 sort of set up the solo, they create a mood, and also give us an understanding of kind of how the melodic lines are going to be shaped as the improvisation continues. In the lines that I played, I chose to include a little bit of resolution at the end of each line so that we could begin to sense that idea of conflict resolution within each little 4-measure phrase. Now we are building a long arc, right? This solo has to start quiet and build in intensity. So these lines are not that intense and they kind of set up the mystery for what's going to happen as the solo progresses. The line comes in on this F sharp over the B minor chord, okay? Now, we also can kind of hear that as a ninth to an E that almost has the same kind of resonance in the context of this jam. So there is a sense of mystery to me when we hear that note. It creates a mood. Now this line progresses nice and slowly down to the note B because in the last note of this phrase, which is B, we have an E chord. And B is the fifth scale degree of an E chord. So the line works through to resolve on our E chord. Let's hear it with the metronome at 135 beats per minute 4 times, just so you got an opportunity to play it and hear it with the metronome with me playing it correctly. You should learn how to play it with the metronome at home on your own in a way where you know you're accurate without the context of the music or the help of the video. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 'Let's take a look at phrase 2. Phrase 2 is another imitative line of what Jerry played on the Reckoning album. He played 2 lines that started out on a G sharp coming down, really resting on that F sharp and making it be the most prominent sound. Now in this line, I broadened the scope of the line by making it go up to this A and then come down and resolve to the G sharp, which is actually lower than the last phrase, resolved to B. This one resolved to G sharp, so that's intentional. The first phrase had a smaller span melodically. This one is a little bit larger. So that's basically the idea of creating interest with the 2 lines back to back, by the second line being a little bit more broad. Now, in terms of repetition when you are improvising, it is a good idea to utilize repetition and make your lines sound convincing. If you play something 2 times in a row, it sounds more convincing the second time. That's just a common fact in music. Me as an improviser, I struggle with having the patience to allow myself to repeat things. I'm just too busy. But in this instance, because I'm imitating a great improviser, I was able to utilize repetition in a way that was really very effective. Now let's hear these lines on the metronome at 135 beats per minute so that you can hear them and practice along with the video. Remember, you need to get to where you can play this at home on the metronome on your own. Slow it down on YouTube if you need to, if it's too fast, and go at slower tempos, as long as you can do it accurately with relaxed confidence. That is the most important thing. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 'So I've taken the next longer phrase of music and divided it into 2 separate things to practice to make it easier. Here's the first little mini phrase. At this point in the solo, we're beginning to try to ramp up a little bit in our dynamic arc. The whole intensity of the notes that we play and everything needs to build just a bit. And the bass and the lead guitar or melody guitar contain a lot of responsibility in the process of building this dynamic arc. Let's have a listen to this first mini phrase with a metronome at 135 BPM. Remember, you can slow this video down if you need to. Please do if it's too fast. Slow it down to the audio that you think you can play it so that you're hearing it at the tempo that you can play it. Then take that audio and apply it to the metronome at home at the same tempo that you're listening to it slowed down. That is an absolutely fail-proof way of learning things that are challenging. Have fun. Coming in on beat 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Here's the next half of the phrase that we're about to put together. It is important to actually try to get your right hand to do precisely what you hear on the recording. Now, a great way to assess that is to go to YouTube and watch the artist that you're studying and see how their right hand functions. Maybe even see if you can find a tutorial by them talking about their right hand. The right hand is so vitally important, and the articulations that you make should be relatively accurate to what you're hearing. Please slow this video down if this is too fast for you. Slow it down to a tempo that you can play it, then take that tempo and move it over to the metronome at home. Learn to do this on your own with the metronome at a tempo that you can play it with relaxed confidence. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So let's put those two little mini phrases together to complete that longer phrase. Remember to pay close attention to your right hand. Remember to make sure to slow this video down to a tempo that you can play this line at, and then take that tempo and match it to the metronome at home and be able to do this on your own without the assistance of the video or the assistance of the backing track at home on your own. Then speed it up. As time goes by, you'll get faster. The key to that is being patient and being persistent with your practice routines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. This is the final phrase that I am going to teach from this solo in this video. You're welcome to learn all the rest if you'd like. Okay, so with this final phrase, I know that I was thinking when I made this particular phrase that I was going to start it on the ninth, or the F sharp, the ninth of E, the F sharp, just like the first phrase emphasized that F sharp. So I know I was thinking that when I began it. It resolves very nicely to a G sharp. I think it may be on beat 1, even though in the score I have it on the and of 4. It comes in on the and of 1. And it's just, a nice phrase that resolves to E major when there's an E major chord. Remember to slow the video down if you need to the tempo that you can play it, then take that tempo to the metronome and use it at home with the metronome at the tempo that you can play. Try to get your articulations as closely to mine as you can, especially the accents. Those are pretty important. The right hand is vital to making good music. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. A 1, 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. A 1, 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. A 1, 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Pretty much all solos start and have this arc that they follow where it starts kind of calm, gets to a climax, and then resolves. That has to do with the harmony, and it also has to do with the rhythmic and dynamic implications made by all of the musicians in the band. With this particular arc that I'm building here, the intensity of the notes increases. So maybe there's more notes, or it follows the rhythm section in a way where the bass is playing a really aggressive line and the melody needs to follow that line to be able to, be a good teammate. So what's going on between the two instruments is that they're consciously aware of what they're doing, building the arc, and trying to create an experience for one another where there is, a sense of excitement and anticipation as what's happening now and what's going to happen next, and that we're, building into this intensity. Now, the pragmatic theoretical knowledge that I think I applied to this last half of the solo where the arc is getting really intense is that I quit resolving my lines. Instead of ending a line where the last measure is an E chord, and instead of ending my lines on like a G sharp, an E, or a B, I would end a line on a C sharp. Which sounds pretty good, still with an E chord, but it's not as resolved as a B or a G or an E. I might also end a line on an F sharp, which also sounds great with an E chord. It sounds wonderful. It's a beautiful hue, right? Just like the sunset and all of the colors it produces. When we start adding notes to the top of the chord, sometimes they create wonderful, sounds. So, I would end the lines instead of on a chord tone or a root chord tone, I'd end them on an extension. I even ended the last line on an A. I'm not sure that I consciously did that, but it sounded great, It's not resolved, that's for sure. So the sort of theoretical, application is that if I don't resolve the lines, then it's going to sound more tense. There's going to be more harmonic conflict going on, as we're trying to create more rhythmic conflict with the rhythm guitar and more kind of, intensity and conflict with the bass lines that are being played as well. So all of that coincides to get ramped up to the very high end of the dynamic arc. Now, as we resolve on the other end of the climax, the rhythm guitar goes to a B minor 7 chord and just holds that chord for 2 measures and then goes to E. It might resolve, instead of in measure 3, it might resolve in measure 4. Either way, you have this sort of suspended sound. It's actually kind of like an E sus 13 chord is the way you could look at it. So instead of a B minor 7, it's still that suspended sound. So there is just sort of like a hovering of the harmonic context. When the lines, you hear me hit an A, you know that I'm purposely, staying away from that G sharp, that resolved G sharp. I'm hitting an A and at times or an F sharp or a C sharp. Those notes are used during this time because we have an E, B, D, A, C sharp. Okay? And then when it goes to the E, it sounds resolved. So to keep that sort of floaty, suspended type sound, I tried to emphasize A's, C sharps, F sharps, during that portion. I suggest you start building lines of your own and try to understand, when you're resolving a line to a chord tone, if you're going to go to E as the chord tone, and when you're purposely not resolving and what that sounds like and how that affects you as the player, and understanding that if it's affecting you as a player, then theoretically it should be affecting the listener as well. And, music is a shared art form. So taking the listeners into consideration when you're producing your art is probably a good idea, But, don't let them rule you. Allow your heart and your soul to be how you motivate yourself and remain strong and true to yourself as well. That can be a bit of a tightrope walk, but it's one that can be very fun and exhilarating too. I certainly love watching Derek Trucks do his thing, or what are some of the other players that are in this genre? Jerry Garcia, or I guess John Mayer has been stepping in. All of those guys, Jimmy Herring, Michael Hauser, they're all remaining true to themselves, but then also trying to be the best they can be for the listeners that come to see them play. I hope you enjoy this tutorial.
song again. Well, you know